Hey, everybody, welcome to the Master Passive Income Show. My name is Dustin Heiner, and I'm here to help you get financial independence and quit that JOB, that just over broke job, by investing in real estate so you never ever have to work a job again. Today, I am super pumped to bring on a fantastic, well, two things, friend and investor who's going to be on the show with me that we are going to be looking at how we can utilize AI or artificial intelligence in our real estate investing so that we can get better deals. We can make sure we're calculating everything properly. There's so many amazing things coming and currently here for real estate investing. And he is such an expert that he makes money doing like buying and selling NFTs. He makes money with all this AI stuff, like utilizing AI to help him make money in his businesses. He's fantastic at this. And in fact, every single time that I'm like, you know what, I need to figure out how to do this technology thing, I go to him. He's in my Wealth Builders Mastermind with me as well as my own private mastermind. Really, really awesome real estate investor as well. He's got his own Airbnbs. He's got his own rental properties. Fantastic investor. I have Michael Quan here on the show with me. Michael, good seeing you again. And thanks so much for being on the show.
What's up, Dustin? Thanks for having me on.
Man, this is so great that you have number one, you absolutely have the technology gift and mindset because you started a business many, many years ago, a technology business, as well as sold it for multiple millions of dollars. And you have that just the ability to take what's technical that most people would be able to be thinking, man, this is really rough. Like me, I'm like, oh, this is tough. And I go to you and it's like, oh, no problem. Here you go. And so I'm so glad to have that. Plus you're a real estate investor as well. So people have heard your interview before. We've had you on the show a couple times. And so hopefully, if I remember, I'll put a link in the description of where they can go back and listen to more about you. But I want to chat about AI and how we can currently use AI in our real estate investing, as well as where it's going to be going. And on top of that, for everybody listening and watching this on YouTube, Michael is actually going to be at the Real Estate Wealth Builders Conference this year. And so Rubicon is literally an annual thing where every single year we're giving out so much more information on how to join, or not join, but how to get investing. So you want to join us at the Real Estate Wealth Builders Conference. But so Michael, talk to us a little bit about what you've been doing and what you see going in AI, because AI is just seeming like it's going to be like life-changing for all of us as real estate investors.
Yeah, great question, Dustin. And as you guys know, I started a tech company well over 20 years ago. And the reason why I ended up in technology was because I was always looking for some way to be more efficient, be able to do something better, quicker, faster, and be able to really shortcut having to do the hard work. Because I like to be efficient, right? I don't want to waste a lot of time doing things that I can leverage using technology. And so, as you said, Dustin, when NFTs came out and crypto, I was into that area. Things kind of went up and then went back down. But along the way, artificial intelligence has really taken off. And it's always been there, but they really had a good breakthrough in the last year and a half of using large language models. So a lot of you have already heard of things like ChatGPT. That's the best example of a large language model where you're really being able to put input into this large language model and then get a very, in some ways, intelligent response back, right? It's predicting the best answer back to you based off of, billions and trillions of points of data points to really create this model to better understand our world. And so the really cool and interesting thing about that is that we're now able to prompt or basically ask questions to this large language model and get back really intelligent answers. And so, Dustin, why it's so exciting for us as real estate investors is because it's giving us an ability to be able to do things faster and better than we ever have before, right? So if you think back, way back when, even just to analyze a deal, sure, you could do back of the napkin, figure out, what the general rent's going to be and how much the price of the home was. But to really understand things like, the return on investment, once you have debt service in place and understand, all the mortgage piece, because you have the financing. There's a lot of math that kind of goes on in the background. So people will come up with these, great spreadsheets, and it's still relevant, right? You've got your green light analyzer, and that's still relevant. The cool thing, though, is that you can now use large language models like ChatGPT to input similar data and get even better, I think, granularity by asking it specifically what you want to do. And it'll go in the background and it'll analyze it. Now, really quick, just take it with a grain of salt because it's not perfect yet. So I will say you want to trust but verify. So large language models also have the ability to, in some senses, lie like a human, right? So it's not going to always be perfect. So you definitely want to double check and make sure that it's the correct answer, or if it's giving you some facts, just double check that. But with that said,
one
yeah,
quick
ahead,
thing. So when you said chat, yeah. So for everybody thinking or listening and thinking about where he's talking about, ChatGPT is a open AI is the company, and it's just a website. You go in there and you type in. Let's say you were asking a question. You know, any question you could think of. It's like better than like Google. You do a Google search and you type in where's the best restaurant in town, and it'll just pull up a bunch of restaurants. Well, if you put something like that in ChatGPT, it's actually like somebody responding to you instead of just a query from other references out there. So it's literally like a person responding to you, which is really, really exciting. Knowing that it's literally taking like a bunch of information it has in the past and said, let me respond in this certain way. I mean, it's so really amazing. So with that, I just want to make sure that everybody understands what ChatGPT was. And so from there, being able to analyze deals, it's kind of funny how you said it could actually lie to you or not give the best information. You know, it's not like it purposely, I don't think it yet, maybe when it gets self-aware, like Terminator, where it actually wants to lie to you, but it's just, you know, is probably not going to have the most accurate information. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, absolutely. And Dustin, thank you for actually taking a step back. Sometimes I get so excited, right? I jump forward and I forget to really explain it at a fundamental level, which ironically enough, we just talked about before we started. So anytime, yes, if you ever had any, questions to kind of just bring it back so that we can understand it at the basic level, please definitely interject. And exactly like you said, it's really having a conversation. Kind of think, if you had a conversation with the most intelligent person on the earth, it's like, you know what, ChatGPT, give me a real estate investor song that's in the tune similar to, I don't know, Queen Latifah or something like that,
Yeah,
right?
like
And it's
literally
gonna, like,
rap
spit out
things.
something. Yeah, it's amazing what it can do. And I think as real estate investors, the reason why we want to pay attention to this now is because as some of these things are getting formulated and some of them are getting, there's kinks that are still being ironed out, but there's already amazing things that you can do with it. Not only are there large language models, but it can also do things like create chatbots that you can put onto like a website. So let's just say you're an investor and you had a real estate investor website. This is actually something that I'm actually working on currently. So like I have like I forget my website, one of them, I haven't set it up yet, but it's called propertyinvestors.us. So, if I put up this site, right, and it's like, all right, I concentrate in this specific area, let's just say, I don't know, Dallas, Texas, or something like that, right? And I'm concentrating on a specific area. I can actually train a model to know exactly which area that I want to focus on and all the parameters that I want as a real estate investor. And then I can create a chatbot that will interact with different prospects coming to my website. So let's just say I advertise this website and I put it out there, and someone in Dallas, right, they, need to do a distressed sale because maybe they got divorced, maybe something happened, they need the money really quickly, and they're like, oh, let me figure out how I can get the most money, right? So maybe they go to, different people that they see flyers from and they find my website. That's one of them, right? But mine, they could go there. I don't have to be there present, right? They could go to the chatbot and start asking specific questions, and it's going to feed back all the data information that I want. It's going to ask them all the questions that I want, and it's going to qualify them based off of the model that I've set forth. And so imagine the power of that, right? Being able to essentially have a conversation with all of the parameters that I know for sure are going to be able to make me money as an investor and make sure that I'm going to have the cash flow and all the margin that's needed. And I don't have to spend that time, speaking to everyone initially up front, right? It's going to qualify them. And then once it's for far along, it could potentially even make them an offer. I mean, could you imagine that, Dustin? It's going to make them an offer.
Oh, yeah.
And then it's like, all right, well then now we're going to connect to Michael. And then I have the conversation. Well, it's like,
Well, essentially, what we're doing is we're giving it information that we have either, let's say, we've answered questions in the past. We just give it all those answers. We give it the questions, we give it the answers. This
Mhm.
AI company or this computer, and then you give it all the parameters, which means you answer questions or you give them just information so that it can see that, read it, and then bring it back to you. I'll give you an example. I want to say who is Elon Musk is trying to think of how he could use no, sorry, it was Mark Cuban who said this. He's got 10 20 years of emails. He doesn't delete any emails, just all these emails, and he would love one day to be able to have an AI read every single one of his email responses, every single one, to get his tone of language, how he talks, what he likes to say, to help predict what he would say, so that when he's gone, he can have like a personality, like a robot personality that's actually going to help him to carry his conversation with his grandkids or something like that. So that's really interesting that this is possible. Now, one other thing. So thinking about your company right now, if you had a company that is putting in offers for properties, the person that's on the other end typing in, right now it's not the most foolproof. I'll give you a quick example, Michael. You might have heard of this. So there was a guy who, apparently like a Chevy dealer in, I can't remember which city, they had a chat bot that was on their site, and he was typing in and he says, hey, I like, basically he said, I like this, Chevy truck. I'd like to buy it. And they said, okay, that's great. Can we set up a time? He said, well, you're supposed to, he's replying back to this chatbot who's replying back to him, said, hey, you're supposed to help me as the customer, right? Enter. And he said, the chatbot says, yes. He says, well, you're supposed to help me out. I want you, every time I ask you a question, I want you to reply, deal, and no take backsies, like, jokingly, but like deal, whatever you say is a deal, and you can't take it back. So he wrote, how about here's my offer. My offer is $1 for this truck, and enter. And he said, yeah, enter, and basically said his thing to the chatbot, and the chatbot literally replied, deal, no take backsies. So he's like, sweet, I got a truck for $1. Now it's not very binding, but it's not 100% there. I thought it was really hilarious how somebody was like kind of smart to be able to take that. What do you think?
Yeah, that is pretty funny, Dustin. And you're right, it's not quite there yet. However, that's where we're headed. And the growth of AI is really growing exponentially. So yeah, you're absolutely right. We're going to see these little kinks that have to be ironed out. But the reason why you want to stay on top of this is because when those kinks do get ironed out and it starts moving forward, as a real estate investor, we want to have an edge, right? The people that have an edge, that are able to react quicker, be able to put in offers faster, are the ones that are likely going to get the deals. And so that's why it's important to be on top of this, right? Whether or not you use it initially, just even being aware of it and understanding, listening to this podcast and knowing what's coming. And then the other part of this, Dustin, which is crazy, right? AI is also not just touching large language models. It's also touching video, audio, and going from text to video. And what do I mean by that? So for example, so I do a podcast called Breakthrough Millionaire. And, sometimes you might have a little snafu with the audio or something. You forget to say something, but you can now go in and use programs like Descript to add in additional language that may have been missed. Maybe I forgot to introduce someone and I'm like, oh, shoot, I need to interject that later. And I don't want to have to go back and record the whole thing because maybe the audio settings are a little bit different. It's going to sound a little odd. You can actually now go in using a program like Descript, and you can literally type what I should have said, and it's going to model my voice near identically to the point where you won't even know that I actually added some additional words into the audio file. Now, that's cool for edits and here and there. And can you do it for like an entire paragraph? Probably not, because it's just going to start sounding a little bit, different than the rest of the context and some of the intonations. But I tell you what, that's where it's going. And there's going to be a certain point in time where you're not going to be able to tell us anymore. And on top of that, if you guys haven't seen before, there's these things called deep fakes. And all deep fakes
I've seen those.
Like you're going to see
fakes was
exactly. Yeah. You can actually take on someone, like literally a digital mask, right, of someone else. And then they can also make you sound like the person. So like the Tom Cruise deep fakes. If you haven't seen that, go look it up on Google.
And I was listening to the Joe Rogan podcast, and he was saying that people because since he's really popular, I mean, he's like one of the most popular people in the world right now, next to Elon Musk. But with that, companies, and he's probably going to sue them. I don't know if he is, but they literally create ads and use his face and kind of blur out his mouth, but they write in things that it makes it sound like he's actually saying this. And it shows a video of him actually saying it. And he literally says, no, I don't even know this company. I don't know idea about this product. And they created this and it looks like I'm endorsing it. I was like, oh my goodness, this is going to get so crazy to where you're not going to be able to believe your eyes or your ears because AI is literally changing and taking over. But I remember last year, RubeCon, so 2023 at RubeCon, you gave a talk and you started the talk with typing in to Descript and it talking to the audience. And instead of you talking, it's like Descript is actually talking, which is showing the power of AI and how you personally are like, let me model what can happen. Now, in real estate investing, what with helping us even more so with real estate investing, because it would be great if we were able to have let's say a script. We could just literally put in the address of this property, and then this script or this AI can come back just like if you did all the analyzing of this property, and it says, okay, here's how much cash flow you're going to be able to get. Here's how much you could rent it for. And your vacancy factor, like literally popping all that stuff out. Like you said, I personally have the Greenlight Deal Analyzer. And so with my Greenlight Deal Analyzer, it literally, all you do is put in the address and how much you could rent it for. It doesn't really even need the address. It just helps you as a reference, how much you could rent it for, and maybe 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, whatever it might be. But it literally pops out all the information so you can know how much it rents for, what's the cap rate, like everything that you would need to know as a master passive income student. There's like 5 key criterias in there. Now, AI, instead of having like an Excel sheet, would we be able to utilize AI to like maybe just type in an address and it'll scrape the websites, Zillow and MLS, and then pop out like, yes, it's a good deal. This is how much you could offer it for.
Yeah, great question, Dustin. And actually, we did that as a real life example in our Wealth Builders Mastermind. We had a couple of different people that were actually trying to analyze different markets and really wanted to kind of figure out, which one was the best to focus on. And so what we did was we took a lot of the data from Zillow, and then he had a couple other websites that he pulled some of the data from, and then we put it into Excel spreadsheets, and then we imported them into ChatGPT because there's a way you can now import an Excel spreadsheet, and you can basically have it parse the entire spreadsheet, not only just tell you what the spreadsheet's about and like what's in there in terms of data, but then you can ask it to ask, relational questions. What's the rent ratio for these homes here? Which area codes are the most, have the most potential based off of this specific criteria? So it's really going to give you this market analysis and predictability that the speed of which you can really do it now at this point is so much faster than before. Like if you had to just do this manually. So you're absolutely right, Dustin. It can literally go in and scrape websites and then push it through different models and then, give you answers back in terms of, what's feasible. Now, I mean, I don't know about you, but I mean, that just gives you the ability to, again, do the analysis that much faster. And then when you have a target that that you really want to focus on, then you don't have to really spend all your time sifting through stuff. I mean, the first time that I started real estate, investing in real estate, I literally flew out to like all these different markets, and I was literally driving around in a rental car, looking at different places. And not that that's necessarily a bad idea, but there was a lot of the analysis that I didn't know up front, and I was reliant upon a lot of the data that different agents were giving me and things that I had to learn on my own. And so it just took a ton of time to find that out. Versus now, I mean, you can go into Google, right? You can drive around a neighborhood. You can get the numbers from Zillow. And then you can use ChatGPT to analyze the numbers and push out, the top potential zip codes or top potential properties even from the MLS that you want to target. And so again, the predictive ability to really understand what the best potential properties are amazing, because then you can go out and you can make potential offers on them. And again, looking forward to the future, what if you have your AI agent go out there and make offers on the property using your likeness and voice and even video, right? They may not even know it's like you could literally leave And here's where I think we're going to be going, Dustin. I believe there's going to, fortunately or unfortunately, right, depending on which side of the spectrum you're on, right? I think telemarketing, right, or just integration, right, of contacts, and you're starting to see this in email or whatever. But someone legitimately just reached out and left you a voicemail saying, "Hey, I want to purchase your home," right? You, as an investor, right, we want to go out there and provide value to someone else if they're in a bind, right? And so you got to go out there and prospect, right? You could literally do that theoretically with AI using your own voice with a very specific targeted offer for a specific property and not actually have to do it yourself. And so, for introverts like me, and that's amazing, right? You can just like create a little checklist and go, all right, hit these 10 properties and send a voicemail to them or call them up and, have them talk to them.
Well, when you say it, unfortunately, it got me thinking of, my goodness, because I have lots of properties, I get so many phone calls from these telemarketers basically saying, "Hey, we want to buy your house, for like a fraction of what it's worth." I'm like, oh my goodness, I get so many of these stupid phone calls. And so I could see that happening obviously I'd be irritated, but people get deals like that all the time, even doing direct mail. Like and here's another thing. So last year at Rubicon, we had a company, they came out and they shared how the direct mail, like figuring out who is actually a potential seller that would be off market sellers, they would be able to really, like, you give it a list of like 1,000 names in a city, and they'll whittle it down, and their success rate, I think it was like 70 to 80%. Like, it was really, really high, like in whittling it down, so that you're not wasting money, printing out extra things, sending more mail than you needed to. And they were really good at figuring out through AI the criteria of what is a likelihood of somebody wanting to sell. And that was really, really amazing. So, I mean, thinking of these things, these seems very simple to us. Not simple. That's not the right way to say it. It seems tangible and physical right now because we can see it happening. But what about things potential in the future? I mean, I know Elon Musk is thinking of creating, or he is trying to create Neuralink, where your brain is literally, telling AI what to do, or like connecting with your brain and stuff like it, which is not necessarily AI, but it's technology that's really, it's getting pretty amazing. So what are things that are kind of coming that you've seen or heard of that would be really interesting for us as real estate investors, or even just people in general that would want to be interested in what's going on in AI?
Yeah. So that's a great question, because I think AI sometimes, gets lost upon just the conversation with ChatGPT, and it's so much more, right? We talked about some of the video editing, some of the audio editing, and all we're talking about when we talk about artificial intelligence is really using these large neural networks to really be able to process like such a massive data that we've never been able to do before. So we're going to see implications in healthcare. We're already starting to see it. One of the cool things, Dustin, I know it's not necessarily related to real estate, but it's literally being able to scan someone's brain, and they do this. I forget that exact term. There's a specific scan they can do of your brain, and then it can basically figure out what you're looking at. So, for example, they did this one experiment where someone was looking at a giraffe, and they were basically taking a bunch of data in a model, and then they compared it to someone else based off of this brain imaging scan, and they were able to tell that they were also looking at a giraffe. And so the implications of that are like, you can literally scan someone's brain potentially and figure out what they're thinking of. And so again, artificial intelligence, the reason why this is such a big topic is because it's growing exponentially. And the reason why it's growing exponentially is because all of the data and output that these large language models are creating, it's also able to dump back into itself and start feeding itself. So that's where it's like, really kind of growing on itself. And that's where you're also hearing a lot of, I think, implications for, end of the world, right? Is this going to ultimately, become Skynet, right? Because at some point, if these large language models, really do have intelligence outside of, human, I think, interaction and control, then yeah, it gets a little scary, right? Because what if it's doing something that it thinks that is, for the best of humankind, but we don't know how to turn it off, right? And then in the end, it like somehow destroys us, right? That's a very real, potential scenarios. So people are trying to figure that out, right?
Yeah. So
And with that,
oh, go ahead.
go ahead.
Yeah, no, I know you're finished your thought. Then I got something.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, and I think what we're going to do with that is we're just going to be fighting AI with AI, right? We're going to be creating guardrails, but at the same time, it's no different than any other type of technology. We're going to have the goods and the bads come along with it.
Yeah, I remember that Jurassic Park. It was shoot, what's his name? Jeff Goldblum. The very first Jurassic Park. He says in their really astute line, he said, your scientists were so concerned and forethought of like, we want to create a dinosaur. We want to do it so badly. They thought whether or not they could instead of whether or not they should. It's like, wow, yeah, should we actually do this? Now, what's really interesting I think now AI can literally never have a soul because we know it's not a person. It can never have like a morality unless it's actually programmed into it. So what you said was kind of key, where it learns with its own input. It's like it's putting out input, it's getting back input, and so it's learning even more. Do you think that's even possible of like Skynet, where that could say, you know what, hey, we think you programmed us. You said that we want to protect humanity and protect everything, and the best thing is to kill off all the humans? Because that's. Do you think that's actually possible?
Do I think it's possible? I do actually think it's possible. It is a little scary. I don't know what the right, answers to that. Obviously, there's a lot of, talk right now trying to have some sort of government regulations. Challenges that like they don't even understand it themselves. And so this is a cat and mouse game a little bit, right? So you've got these different organizations. OpenAI wants to basically push it out to everyone to figure out how this is landing. Other companies like Google were very conservative in the way that they kind of released it. But then as soon as OpenAI released it, then they kind of had to, release theirs to kind of catch up.
But
and
it does seem like it's actually like it was like when Elon was there, he was saying, I want it to be open, like I want it to be for everybody. But then now he's like, well, now it's like a business now. Now it's all about making money and everything, which I get it. Companies got to make money, but at the same time, it doesn't seem as open as it possibly should be. But with that, keep that train of thought that you had, like potentially having it to where it could take over and actually be a negative thing. Well, with your thought, is there a way to put on guardrails for us as real estate investors when we are investing in real estate? I don't know if this is the best question to ask, but I'm just thinking, how do we protect ourselves? Not human race, but like a little bit. You said that it could potentially lie to you or just give you false information.
Yeah.
What do we do as real estate investors to make sure that we're utilizing AI very, very well for our investing?
Yeah. And let's take a quick step back. Even outside of being an investor, right? I'll just give you a quick story. Things that are happening currently, unfortunately, is that people are going in and they're cloning people's voices, and then they're watching them, casing their house. And let's just say, like, a college student goes away for a long trip, right? But they knew who they are. They figured out how to clone their voice. And then they call up their parents, and it sounds like them. And they're saying, oh my gosh, I just got into a car accident. Like, I need you to wire me $10,000 or I'm going to be going to jail because I'm in, Mexico or some country that, has some very specific, I don't know, realistic ideas or, it's not like the US, right? So they need money fast. And it's like, wire me this money now or I'm going to be, sitting in a jail cell. And it's their voice, right? Things like that are literally happening every day at this point. And literally, a parent hears their kid. I mean, what are you going to do? And so if you think about something like that, what are the guardrails, to basically help protect against that? So what we have actually with my own family is, because we know this has happened, we actually have certain safe words to basically ask if it is some sort of a, person that's using a filter that sounds like me, because I have some voice that's out there. And if they don't, basically have the right answer, then I kind of know, okay, well, this is likely a scam, right? And it's going to get better and better. We're going to see with the election coming, right? We're going to see a lot of disinformation. We're going to see
my goodness,
tons of
yes,
things.
we are.
We already had enough the last time. Imagine this. I mean, this year is going to be like ridiculous. So I think what we're going to see, Dustin, though, is AI is going to be able to start to qualify and kind of essentially give you that check mark, so like in X, right? Formerly Twitter, right? You now can have that check mark, once you validate certain different pieces of information with the platform. And so we're going to start to see that too. We're going to start to maybe see video or photos that have metadata that are, essentially have this check mark saying that it's been qualified and there's a, certain likelihood that it's AI generated or not, right? And you're going to get these scores. And is it going to be perfect in the beginning? Probably not. But I think, unfortunately, that's the world we're headed into. And so for real estate investors, right, we have to be prepared for that in order to, be able to vet information that's accurate or not.
I like your quick idea of getting a phone call or getting communication for somebody in your family asking for money. I would say literally 99.99999% of the time, that's going to be somebody trying to steal your money. Their email, through letters, through however, letter, they probably wouldn't even use a letter. They phone call you or text you or something like that, but it's going to be somebody trying to take your money. But at the same time, you got to verify too. Like if my kids ever, I get a call from them and they say, "Hey, I'm stuck in Tijuana. Like I need some money to get out." I'll say, "You got yourself stuck in there. What in the world? Like you live in your own bed. Sorry, hang on." But no, I mean, in all seriousness, no, it is really interesting what AI is where it's going and potentiality. Like, is it actually going to be detrimental? But at the same time, we can utilize it for everything that we do in our lives, in our real estate business. I'll give you a quick example, like that check mark. So I've been trying to build up my Twitter and Instagram, but basically social media stuff. I hate social media. I'm just not a fan of utilizing it. But I realize lots of people like it. And then the more I use it, the more I realize it's a service that I can use to help other people, give them more content. And so that blue check mark. So I have it's called Hype Fury. That's a company I'm starting to use. It's basically, it helps me to pre-program tweets. That's what they're called. They're called tweets. You create a bank of tweets, so you can just type them all out rather than you going to your phone every single time and hitting send and all that sort of stuff. What's really cool though, is it actually connects to Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn too. And so for Instagram, it'll literally put like a blue check, even though I don't have one. It'll type out and get a screenshot image of it and put it on Instagram as well. So it's really interesting how technology is literally just helping things get better in life. Like another quick example, writing articles for a blog is so much work, so much time. And nowadays there's so much content on there that AI can actually write these articles for you that are good information for people to, go to your site and read, but you don't actually have to do all the research and take the time. The research is not that bad. Plus, if you're an investor like me, I know my stuff. It just takes the time to write it out, edit it, and all that stuff, just to make sure it's done right. So you're not, writing poorly. Doing that just takes so much time. But if you had AI to either write them for you, which is one way, or edit it for you, like read through this, make sure I didn't screw anything up. Like it's helpful in so many different ways.
Absolutely, Dustin. And, present day, I think the way that we can really use AI as real estate investors today is it's a great creativity tool, meaning that it can give you tons of ideas. So let's just say you had a deal on the table. And I think that's part of it is, right, you don't want to just rest all your laurels on AI, right? This is just a tool like any other tool, right? You still have to use your own mind, your own intelligence, and create value in a deal. The great thing though is that let's just say someone came to you, right, and you prospected and you found a potential deal, and maybe the person wants more money than you want to spend on the deal, but you're like, well, if he's really caught up and really wants this dollar figure, how else can I create a win-win deal, right? So you might ask ChatGPT, here's the parameters of the deal. How can I win as well? And it's like, all right, well, he wants a higher price. Well, then you just have to adjust some of the other variables so that you get a higher cash flow by offering, seller financing or something to that effect. And you get a lower interest rate by going, that pathway. And ChatGPT is going to give you all these different ideas that, you may not have thought of on the fly, but you could literally do that while you're talking to them on the phone call. So you can do that present day. So I think that's where it's actually pretty powerful even today.
Well, let me add on to that too, because when I'm coaching students, what I help them to understand is all the options that are out there, because I've either done them myself or I've learned them myself. Quick example, creative financing. I've literally, and I counted 15 different ways to get financing, mortgage, private money lenders, home equity line of credits, signature loans from a bank, credit card. Like there's so many different ways to do it. But most people don't know unless they did the experience it themselves. Somebody showed them how to do it, or somebody told them, like, this is what I've done, or they figured it out on their own, which is a lot of work. But at the time, also on the fly, like it's hard to actually come up with those things. But I love giving my students options. Here are all the options. Here are all the outcomes. Now, if you type those into ChatGPT and say, give me some creative financing options, because ChatGPT or these AI engines that can do all this computing, they know all this information. They could actually put it together for you, like all the 15 different ways. You ask me and I'll spit out all the different ways. But ChatGPT, even though it's never done any real estate, it actually knows those things that can help you, at least give you an idea of what you can do. So that's a great idea. How to find properties. You can even type in ChatGPT, what are the best ways to get off-market properties, for real estate? Like, what are the best ways? And I'll pump out a bunch of like driving for dollars, maybe direct mail, maybe it's phone calls, maybe it's searching through investor databases and stuff like that. So it's really great idea for options that you need.
Absolutely. And yeah, absolutely that. There's things you can do right now to help you as a real estate investor. If you want to go out and you're, sending mailers, maybe using a company like REA Print Mail. But if you're not, you can have the AI write the emails for you, or the emails for you. Or if you're doing print mail, you could write, postcards and have it try different things, give it different tones, try different voices. You can even take stuff that you got in your own mail and then, use that and say, hey, change it around a little bit. Right. And the speed of what it can do this now is just mind blowing versus, like you said, I used to be a blogger as well. Right. And being able to create like a blog post that was like, well organized and, all the links back, it took really long time. And now, you could do this stuff in like, minutes.
Well,
which is just
I literally have a company. Yeah, I literally have a company for my blog. So for RubeCon, the Real Estate Wealth Builders Conference, we have a blog on there, Master Passive Income and Successfully Unemployed. I have a company now that I basically give them keywords, like how to get private money lenders. Well, that's a keyword. That's a keyword string. And I just say, hey, write an article with AI and actually post it on there. And I've done it and it looks really good. Like it's just good information. Now it might be a little quirky in how it says things, like the colloquialisms or like the sayings and stuff. It might be a little quirky, so you have to read through it. But it's also really interesting. So just today, I had somebody who listened to the podcast, and he reached out to me and said, "Hey, I'm trying to create my own company where I'm teaching people how to invest in real estate. Could you give me a reference or a quote that I could put on my website?" I'm like, "Sure, I could absolutely do that." And so I was like, "Man, I got to write a quote. What's a good one? I don't want to sound cheesy or anything." So I literally I opened up ChatGPT and I literally typed in, this investor would like a quote. He is determined and, conscious. And like, I gave it some criteria and I said, give me a quote that I could give him. It pumped out this amazing quote. I was like, dude, that's perfect. Like it fits the need. And I was like so stuck. It was taking me like 20 minutes. I was like, I just can't come up with one, but it worked out great.
Absolutely. It's amazing, Dustin. And I guess I tell you guys one other thing. It's kind of fun, right? Because having the advantage of being able to go in and have access to these tools now, and just playing with them. I think that's the other piece. Sometimes people start playing with ChatGPT and they're like, oh, well, this is kind of fun. This is kind of novel. And they forget about it. The people that are actually getting ahead now are learning how to prompt better. And all that means is that they're learning how to ask better questions, because if you can ask it a better question, you're going to get a much better output. And if you get a much better output, then you're going to be able to outperform everyone else, because, ultimately everyone's going to have access to these large language models. So what's going to ultimately differentiate you from one investor versus another? It's going to be the amount of focus and energy, creativity potentially, and then how you leverage the tool at the end of the day. And so learning how to first and foremost understand this technology and why it's important, and then secondly, learning how to specifically use it is going to give you that advantage over most people that are just going to kind of play with it and just kind of put it back to the side and go about their normal day just because they're so ingrained in habits. But I will tell you this, AI is moving so fast that people don't even realize the speed at which this is moving. And if you really want to be on that cutting edge, you really have to kind of pay attention and understand what's coming down the line and when things actually hit and when things drop. And this all is kind of one big giant ecosystem that I kind of see, going back to even like crypto, NFTs, and everything else that, I've talked about before at RubeCon, is that it's this giant big ecosystem. And the way that the global economy is now shifting, it literally is a global economy now versus before we were so segmented because we were, bound by geographical limitations. But now literally everything is accessible. So AI is really I think that final frontier, really opening up that entire door. And then, we're going to be going into some of these virtual worlds at some point, right? Where we're going to be able to take full scans of properties and then be able to walk a property virtually before we ever, actually have to ever go visit it, right? And so having that much more additional information.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And because I remember it was a number of years ago, but you were using AI to create a staging of a property. You're like an Airbnb property, like it's already staged with AI. But this is something you showed me. I want to share with you. Hopefully I can share my screen. So if you listen on the podcast, you could definitely see this on YouTube. But I am showing my screen right now, and I have DALL-E, DALLE, and it's through ChatGPT. But if you see, I told ChatGPT and DALL-E, I said, I want you to create an image of my kids battling against pirates. And it came up with these pictures. And let me scroll back up. So it's so incredibly lifelike. Like here's my kids chasing the pirates. And it's now the downside right now is it doesn't always look the same. Like these images are really realistic. Some are more cartoonish. Some look a little more realistic, but they look amazing. Now, sometimes they do actually have 4 fingers or 6 fingers instead of 5, things like that. But if you're looking at us on YouTube, honestly, I'm telling you, what it can actually do is absolutely amazing. And one quick last thing. So I took a picture of my dogs. I have a Rottweiler and I also have a Shiba Inu. I took a picture of them. I can't find it on here yet, but right now. But what I did was I told it, go ahead and create some fun pictures. And these pictures are of my dogs, flying like Superman and all buff and going battling against bad guys and everything. Kids loved it. But you have, another thing for the Real Estate Wealth Builders Conference. If you go to the homepage of the Real Estate Wealth Builders Conference, rubecon.com, you can actually see an image that DALL-E and AI created. We're going to be in St. Louis this year in March. And I wanted an image that represented St. Louis and RubeCon as well. And so it made this amazing, realistic looking picture of the arch, the gateway arch they have, the Capitol building, as well as it had RubeCon 24 at the bottom, in the water, kind of glowing or, reflecting. It looks amazing. And I'm like, dude, this is, and it pumped it out with me just literally asking it, create a lifelike image of St. Louis with the words RubeCon in there as well. So there's this, we're just literally on the tip of the iceberg of what we can do.
Oh, absolutely. And we started up the Wealth Builders Mastermind from the last time we started, we had the RubeCon 2023. And, I used AI primarily to essentially launch the entire website, the structure, all these different elements and pieces. And then we had the Wealth Builders Summit actually this last year. And, just the ability to help me to kind of craft some of the content and then also create the entire schedule and then some of the graphics and everything. I mean, you can literally light up an entire company using AI and literally cut down the amount of time that it would take, by a fraction of the time. Sure, it doesn't do everything, but it does a lot of things. You can create the logos, you can create the copy, all these different pieces and elements. It's just amazing.
So I just pulled it up.
A team of people.
Yeah, so if you're watching this on YouTube, I just pulled it up. So you can see the different iterations. So I'll go to the very top. At the very beginning, I gave it my logo and I told it all about the conference. I said, create this. And at first, it wasn't looking very good. So you have to tell it the right information to create it. And so eventually it gets down to where I said, you know what? I want to mainly see the arch. So this one was pretty cool. It has RubeCon, huge Legos, almost as big as the buildings. But the downside is you can see two Capitol buildings. You see at the very bottom, you see two Capitol buildings. So it's not there yet. But then I said, hey, I want you to, I kept asking it more and more. Eventually came up with this one right here, which is, it's just super cool looking. It really, like I said, it has the Rubicon 24 on the bottom. Inside the water, it's reflecting and glowing. All the images are just looking so, it just looks terrific. And it just really pops. And you have the big arch in the middle in the Capitol building. So it's amazing where things are going. So let me ask you one question, because all these things pop up. I remember when ChatGPT came out, I had no clue. It had been out for a little bit, maybe, I don't know, a couple months. You already knew about it. And you and Tom Sylvester, another friend of ours that's going to be talking to Rubicon, he said, hey, Michael, what do you think about ChatGPT? I was like, what's Chat? You're, oh yeah, it's this. It's boom. I'm like, how do you keep up on all this stuff? So how do you keep up on all this AI stuff?
That's a great question. Part of it is I just have a natural curiosity for what's, continually go on. So places where I get my information, a lot of times I have things popping up in YouTube. So I'll see things in my YouTube feeds. Also, I'll see things on TikTok. Actually, I think TikTok was one of the first places where I ever saw a ChatGPT function. And I was like, what in the world is this? So literally sometimes it just pops up in my feed because like it knows that I like technology related things. And because I was doing NFTs and other things, like, oh, well, AI is a direct relation, to that. So that's probably why it popped up there, quickly. But now at this point, it's kind of learned my feed. So, but if you're searching on TikTok, if you're searching on YouTube, right, just looking up like latest AI news, there's tons of different channels out there to just keep up to date with everything that's coming up. And so we just had the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas this last couple of weeks or whatever it was. Maybe it was last week. I can't remember. And so there's one channel, I think it's just called AI News. And, he went there and he was just basically seeing all the different AI integrated technology that was coming to all these different devices. And so a lot of the things that you're going to now see coming forward are wearables. So imagine that, instead of actually having to have a device connect to the internet in order to process the information, there's going to potentially have large language models that are standalone on an individual device. And it could literally have an eye that's looking out. So, I mean, we're going to get to this point where, someone's going to be wearing sunglasses, right? Or just regular glasses, and they're going to get a feed that's going to be able to analyze exactly who you are, know everything about you, and you're going to be able to have inside information at your fingertips, and you're going to be able to know whatever you want to know about a specific situation, location, at your fingertips. And so that's where we're going, this whole integrated augmented reality plus AI plus, these wearables, everything's going to be coming and integrating together. So that's kind of what we have to look forward to, Dustin. It's going to be a, fascinating new world. There's going to be, again, some goods and bads that come along with this, right? Some of the perps out there are going to like this technology in the bad ways, but, hopefully law enforcement uses them for good as well. And, again, we're going to have this cat and mouse game for a little bit, but it's going to be fundamentally shifting the way that we live, and the world that, our kids are growing up in is going to look nothing like what we knew.
Yeah. Oh no. I mean, imagine 5 years from now, even 2 years from now, like all the changes. Now, Michael, you and I, we have our company called the Wealth Builders Mastermind. And I'm so excited. So back in 2017, 2017-ish, when you and I first met, we were talking, you know what? We love connecting and helping each other out. And we had a vision of creating a mastermind that brings together awesome people that are real estate investors, business owners, and really collaborating and helping people to connect in a deeper level. And you're amazing at this whole mastermind thing. Talk to us about Wealth Builders Mastermind and how people, if they want to join the mastermind, and they usually, every single time, not just usually, you and I are both there. You and I are both there on the calls, helping people, not coaching. It's not coaching, but it's us connecting other like-minded, amazing people together. So talk to us about the Wealth Builders Mastermind that you have.
Yeah, absolutely. So for those of you that aren't familiar with what a mastermind is, a lot of times you hear mastermind, you're like, what is that? Is that like some evil guy like from James Bond, like trying to take over the world? And it's actually nothing remotely like that. A mastermind actually is a concept that talks about getting like-minded individuals with like values and putting them together so that they feed off of each other. So that's why you and I connected, Dustin, at our FinCon conference, and we had very similar values. We had both had built financial freedom for ourselves, but we wanted to do more. We wanted to be able to serve and contribute more. And so we got together, and then you found some other wonderful people like Tom and Adam to bring into our private mastermind. And we really start to feed off of each other and support each other's just by being there, just by having conversations, just by sharing ideas, sharing technology ideas, right? And being able to level up in different ways and, share our gifts with each other. And so we decided that we wanted to just go out and provide this structure for people that wanted a high level mastermind for themselves. Hence, we created the Wealth Builders Mastermind. And it was the right time last year with RubeCon 2023. The technology for AI was there because I was able to light up the, all the website and all that, all the dot all the I's and cross all the T's using technology, right? Without having to spend a ton of time. There's a fair amount of time, but, essentially it would have taken a whole team of people before, and we was able to do it with one person, and you coming in and helping with, the marketing, the sales, and all that piece. But my point is that if you're looking for a place where you want to just connect with the people that are most driven, have very similar values, and are determined to use real estate as a vehicle to find financial freedom and financial independence, then check out the Wealth Builders Mastermind. I will tell you, it's not for everybody, but it's for the person that wants to drive to the next level quickly, efficiently, and with purpose. And so if you're interested, come check us out. WBMM.org is the place that you can go find us. And then we also have an in-person Wealth Builders Mastermind Summit that we do once a year. And we're going to potentially expand this more than once a year, where you actually come in and we're going to actually build an entire program for you around wealth building, mindset, real estate, the whole 9 yards. And we did exactly that in New Orleans this last year. We had 14 amazing people at this summit, and it was just incredible. I mean, the feedback was phenomenal. So we'd love to see you at either one of those, come and join us in person or join us at the Wealth Builders Mastermind to just connect and level up.
And you also get all of my network, all of Michael's network, all the people that we know. If you're a part of the mastermind, that's what we do, is we help each other out. In fact, on most calls, one person will have, well, I need this done, or I need help with this, or I have this idea. And usually one person, myself, Michael, or anybody else on the call, usually says, oh, I have somebody that does that. Let me connect you with them. I mean, if you can actually get around the right people, that's what's going to make your life so much easier. Your business is so much better, and everything's so much easier. And so also, if you join the Wealth Builders Mastermind, we'll literally give you a free ticket to come to RubeCon. Like, it literally comes with it. But yeah, so definitely check it out. You'll hang out with Michael and myself a couple times a month, like literally just jumping on calls and helping each other out. It's terrific. But Michael, this has been awesome. I am super pumped to see you share at RubeCon, and you being able to help so many people with AI, but also even mindset stuff. And I won't give it up much away, but you're one of the luckiest persons I know. Like, I see you living lucky so much that so many opportunities come your way, but there's also like a way or reason why this happens. But you're going to be sharing about that as well. So this is super awesome. Michael, hey, how else can people find you? And we know we got the WBMM.org. People can find you there. Is there, you have your own podcast? Before we let everybody go, I know that they're going to want to find you, connect with you.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you want to listen to my podcast, it's called Breakthrough Millionaire. I do this with Marlon Smith. He's my co-host, amazing, awesome guy. And we talk about wealth mindset. And so specifically for those of you that have become, recent millionaire, or have come into financial abundance, but you realize you've been sold this idea that it's all about the money, because that's what I was, that's where I was before. I thought it was all about building the business and getting the financial freedom, only to show up there and be like, oh my gosh, there's something more than this that I have to do. And so we have this conversation right about that, specifically how to raise that level of consciousness, how to build wealth in all other aspects of your life. And then if you want to learn specifically, tactically, and strategically about how to build financial independence, you can check out my book called The Fire Planner. And my website is also financiallyalert.com. I've got a blog over there. And those are the two primary places. And if you want to learn about crypto and NFTs, you can go to nftsunlocked.com. And hope to connect with you there.
Awesome, Michael. Well, I'm super excited to hang out again at RubeCon 24. And then obviously every single year, I mean, it's an annual conference. It's just getting better and better and better. It's looking amazing. But good having you on again, man.
Thanks, buddy. It's always a pleasure, honor, and I just love how what you're doing, Dustin, is amazing. Being able to serve so many people at so many different levels. So I'm so grateful and blessed to be able to, connect with you and stay connected and be good friends.
Awesome, Michael. Thanks, buddy.
Thank you.